Welcome to Breakfast with Champion at Port City Cafe in Biloxi. Good morning, Ernest.
Good morning, sir. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
All right.
How was your weekend?
Oh, it was great. It's great. Anytime LSU and the Saints win again, I'm not sure how many consecutive weeks that is, but they've been on a great roll. And hey, we're gonna have a great roll of a show here. So let's get it going.
It's Breakfast with Champion at Port City Cafe in Biloxi. And just a reminder, you could come down here and even have a chance to jump in the show from time to time. We're here every Monday morning at 8 a.m. I'm Jeff Marion.
I'm Randy Kennedy from iHeartRadio.
Good to see you again this
Good
morning,
to see
Randy.
you. Lots of football to talk.
Yes. How was our Friday night looking? What did you see this Friday night out of the prep games that really stood out to you?
Well, a lot more excitement on the high school level. Some teams are really gearing up for the playoffs now as we get late in the season. You know, it's that time of year where not only have you had your rivalry games, but now it's time to start looking ahead to postseason and who may make a deep run. Also, we got some high school all-star games to talk about.
Yes, we do. Looking at some of our standings right now, Biloxi is at 6-2. They played St. Martin, who is still at 6-2. Biloxi over St. Martin at 28-14. Gulfport at 6-2. D'Iberville at 7-1. Picayune is still undefeated, and Pass Christian at 6-2.
Good run for them. Good run. I mentioned about the high school all-star games. You know, coming up, we've got the Bernard Blackwell all-star game, and you mentioned Picayune, one of their players in the game, as well as a lot of local guys here. You know, when you look at that roster, if you want to touch on that just for a second.
Yes.
You look at that roster, Mississippi traditionally in these all-star games, whether it be the in-state game or the Alabama-Mississippi game, known for having really big teams. You know, in terms of the offensive line and defensive line, and you look at this roster just announced. Same thing again this year. If you look at Reginald Barnes from Pascagoula, 6'2", 285, one of the stalwarts on that defensive line. He's one of the key guys there. And so you'll see that again. And these games really are, because they're played in December, can be a big deal on the recruiting front. You know, you still got a chance, not only in your high school games, but in these all-star games, to get some attention from these recruiters. So that's going to be interesting to see coming up in December. That game played in Gulfport.
One of the things we touched on last week is how many offensive linemen from the Gulf Coast are in this, and how important it is to have offensive linemen.
Yeah. Timothy Mickles, one of those guys from Picayune you mentioned. He's a guy that's almost 300 pounds, is one of the top offensive linemen in the state that we'll see on display in this game.
Well, that's another thing about offensive linemen, is you can never have enough of them, because somebody's going to end up with a tweaked knee or a hurt shoulder somewhere, and you've got to have those body parts.
It's true. It's true in all-star games, but it's definitely true in you know, the regular season as well, as these teams, you know, with their real teams at the high school level. But you know, the all-star game particularly, because you get such a short week where you're trying to put a team together and trying to figure out what you can do, you're less likely to have a really sophisticated offense with great timing with the receivers and quarterbacks and whatnot. So those big guys up front, that's what it's all about on offense and defense. And Mississippi has certainly been known for having great ones on both sides of the ball up front.
Have you seen any roster changes or additions to the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game?
Not yet. I mean, they came out with that. There always is, but we usually see that about the time the regular season ends. So I haven't seen any changes to that yet, but inevitably there are going to be those, and that game's going to be played in Hattiesburg again this year.
Well, I see a few things that stood out to me on this stat sheet. As Biloxi had over 278 yards rushing, 300 yards total. You had over 170 yards of receiving out of Andrew Moffitt, out of Pass Christian. That's a lot of receiving yardage for one person.
It is on any level, but particularly on the high school level, that is a really remarkable stat.
That was very impressive. Well, we'll be back in just a minute talking about our SEC and NFL coming up next on Breakfast with Champions.
Vic Dion at Champion. Shopping online for a vehicle drives me crazy. We have a website, but in order to stay competitive, we have to put every discount available, which most people don't qualify for. You own a horse, you get $500. You got a hamster, you get another $1,000. It's that ridiculous, and I don't like it. Come on over to Champion. Let's visit the websites together. All of them. At Champion, you're still going to find the best price on the coast. Check us out during Ram Power Days at Champion.
Business has one speed, fast, and with new 1 gig internet from Sparklight Business, you can put yours on the fast track to success. We're delivering on our promise to connect you to more opportunities, more speeds, and more flexible plans. With speeds up to 1 gig, you can download a 2-hour presentation in 8 seconds. Collaborate across the country in real time. Access cloud-based applications instantly and more. Because with new speeds come new possibilities. Call now to find the right speed for your business with Sparklight Business.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Champions. I'm Jeff.
I'm Randy from iHeartRadio.
And it's good to be back on the set with you, Randy. Had a great weekend of football. Of course, any weekend with football is a great weekend, but in the SEC, what stood out to you this weekend?
Well, let's start with LSU and Mississippi State. You look at this game, 36-13 for LSU, never was really in doubt. If you'll remember 2 years ago, last time LSU visited Mississippi State won 37-7, a 30-point win for Mississippi State. Wow. Look what's happened in those last 2 years. I mean, could you imagine today that Mississippi State beating LSU by 30 points? You couldn't. No. These two programs have gone in completely different directions. Joe Moorhead at Mississippi State, it's time maybe to start questioning what direction they're going in Mississippi State. I mean, it has not gone well. They got a great young quarterback in Garrett Schrader, but it just hasn't come together for Mississippi State in year 2 for Joe Moorhead. On the flip side of that, LSU just continues to roll. Ed Ogeron pushing all the right buttons, with the new passing game that they've got. And so, just kind of the march continues toward the Alabama game, although tough one this weekend against Auburn for LSU before they start looking ahead.
Well, looking at the Mississippi State LSU game, one of the things that stood out to me was the defense for Mississippi State was making a stand, but Joe Burrow was kept clean. His offensive line did an outstanding job of keeping him protected, but it looked like it was going to be close. But any of the games with LSU, and I'm even seeing this across any of the college games, no matter how great the opponent is, that once they start getting a chance to adjust to each other's schemes, that's when you see the better team pull ahead. What do you notice about that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And, with LSU, we saw it really pronounced in the Texas game, but you see it in this Mississippi State game. When things get tough, the inclination now for LSU is not, let's get in 3 tight ends and just run it at somebody. Mm-hmm. Even when the game gets tight and it gets tough and you have to run out the clock when you got a lead, they're putting the ball in the hands of Joe Burrow. And every single time he's come through this year, it happened again last week against Mississippi State. I look for it to happen again this week against Auburn. And going forward, it seems like we've got a new Heisman frontrunner with Joe Burrow from LSU.
Absolutely. I was looking at that. The other game I wanted to touch on was that Tennessee-Alabama game. What news are you hearing about Tua and his injury that he had?
Yeah, he had a little bit of a surgery on the right ankle on Sunday. It's a situation where he had the exact same surgery last year mid-season on the other ankle. So it's one of these things where it's a high ankle sprain. In the past, that would not have meant surgery. You'd just been out 6 to 8 weeks, then you come back and play. Now they do this surgery on it. They think he'll be back for LSU, but he's definitely going to miss Arkansas this week. Then Alabama's got a bye week. They think he'll play against LSU, but it's just going to be pins and needles for Alabama fans waiting to see, can he play against LSU? And if so, how effective will he be? There's no way we're going to know that till he jogs out on the field on November 8th against LSU.
Well, Tennessee was kind of making a defensive stand, and they gave some good scouting material for other teams when they play Alabama. The only thing is of course, the cream always rises to the top in the end, and they pulled out a 35-13 victory. And of course, in both of the games we've talked about with LSU and Mississippi State, and again with the Alabama-Tennessee, the games are not as close as they appear at any given time.
It's true, but much like LSU with Alabama, this is not your grandfather's Alabama. This is not even 10 years ago Alabama. This team is predicated on being the best passing team in the country, and when Tua Tagovailoa goes out, well, now you're turning to the defense and say, okay, go be like you were in 2011. Go be that defense. Well, guess what? It's not that defense. When you're starting that many true freshmen on defense, you're just not going to be that dominating team. Now, can they be good enough to win them all, win a national championship? Yes. As many yards as they gave up, they only gave up 13 points to Tennessee. So some good things are happening on that side of the ball, but just like with LSU, Alabama's bread and butter now is having a great quarterback and those explosive wide receivers. When he goes out, to a large degree, you take away how great those wide receivers are too.
Well, I was wanting to ask, who might be which opponents that they have are going to be their toughest. But right now, with Tua being out of the lineup, that would be anybody they play.
Except Arkansas this week.
Except Arkansas this week.
I think they're definitely going to be better than Arkansas, and they'll kind of be vanilla this week and then try to get to the bye week. Everybody's counting down to Alabama, LSU. Although, Auburn has looked good. Auburn went last week to Arkansas and completely dominated. They're about a 12-point underdog this week against LSU, but that's a game that is going to have the attention of the SEC and fans around the country as well.
Now, the backup to Tua, he seemed to struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there going to be might we see some different faces at quarterback next week against Arkansas?
I don't think so. I think it's Mac Jones's job. You got to understand the way college football is now. Sometimes you're recruiting quarterbacks to be backup quarterbacks. If you recruit 2 5-star guys, one of them's going to leave. That's just the facts of college football now. Mac Jones is one of those guys from the state of Florida who was really successful at the high school level, but wasn't a 5-star sort of recruit. He was a guy they knew would come in and stay for the duration and be a good backup quarterback and be ready if his time was called. And guess what? It's that time now. It's just Arkansas this week, but I think he's the unquestioned starter. And when you look at those wide receivers, if you're just okay at quarterback, you got a chance to look really good when you're throwing it out there to Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith.
Now, last week we talked a little bit about Tennessee. They put up a good fight against Mississippi State, became victorious.
Yep.
This quarterback that they have as a backup, not sure how to say his name, is Jarrett
Garantano. I think
He seems to be a little bit rogue.
Yeah, we may have seen the last of him. The reaction of Jeremy Pruitt when he came off the field and ran the quarterback sneak at the goal line and got stopped and fumbled, and Alabama ran it back 100 yards for a touchdown. That may have been the swan song there for a guy who's really talented and is a good kid and a smart kid and all that. There's all the hopes in the world for him, but I just don't think it has clicked, and I think maybe a fresh start for everybody is what we're going to see there.
Wow. So, looking at the rankings this morning, you still have Alabama at number 1, LSU at number 2, but we've had some change-ups from 3 going on. Would you like to discuss a little bit about that?
It's interesting. Dabo Swinney at Clemson says that last year we were beating our opponents by 28.57 points a game. This year, we're beating them by 28 points a game, and that elusive .57 can be tough to come by, sort of tongue-in-cheek. But LSU has not looked good. That is just a fact. If you look at the schedule they played, they have not looked good. But guess what? They're going to be undefeated.
Talking about Clemson,
Clemson,
right?
Clemson, yeah. Ohio State has looked as good as anybody. Their big matchup of Wisconsin this weekend got the luster taken off a little bit when Wisconsin laid an egg against Illinois. But those are the top teams, along with Oklahoma. You've kind of got 5 teams for the 4 slots right now. That could change, but there are 5 teams that have kind of separated themselves at this point in college football.
Yeah, a few teams that are starting to move up. Penn State, of course, Clemson dropped 1 point, and then Ohio State jumped above Clemson, and Florida also jumped up 2 points.
Florida's got a chance. That was an impressive win at South Carolina, where South Carolina has been playing well. That was a game that could have gone the other way, but give Florida credit. If they win out, Florida, they're in the national championship playoff. That's a fact.
Well, coming up, we're going to talk about the Saints, what you've been waiting for, and more when we come back with Breakfast with Champion.
It's Vic Dehan at Champion Chrysler Dodge Jeep. We have the sleek and fast Charger SXT right here at Champion for $19 and some change. U.S. News ranked it one of the best top 10 American-made vehicles on the road today. A sports car with comfort. Come and ask for stock number 39120. Some terms and conditions may apply. It's the Dodge Power Dollar Sale here at Champion. ChampionValue.com.
Champion!
This town is on the move, and we're moving forward with you, helping you grow your business and connect to more customers using today's ever-evolving advertising technologies. Now we're taking our commitment to you one step further, connecting people to one another. connecting your business to the world, connecting what's now to what's next. Sparklight Advertising. Go anywhere from here.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Champion at Port City Cafe, which we've renamed Sports City Cafe. And just a reminder, you can come down here every Monday morning at 8 o'clock and maybe have a chance to join in with us. I'm here with Ernest Ulrich and also Adam Stanley with the Hard Rock Sport Book. You want to tell us a little bit about where you're from and what do you do with the sports book?
Well, I'm originally from New York. I moved down here a couple of years ago, and basically when sports betting became legal, I thought it would be a good opportunity to get in. I've always been a big sports fan. I always loved talking sports, and I'm a supervisor there, and I just help keep things going, basically.
Well, welcome to the mix this morning. Ernest, a great weekend if you're a Saints and LSU fan, right?
Absolutely. Very, very, very good weekend. We started off on Saturday against the Bulldogs and finished yesterday against the Bears, and both games were exciting, and they took care of business, both of them.
Looking at some of our division winners across the NFL, one thing that I noticed is the Saints have had more teams with a winning record that they've played against than any of the other teams.
Oh yeah, they've got a tough schedule, very tough. Look at this Sunday coming up. They've got Arizona, who's won 3 games in a row. So every week it keeps getting a little tougher, it seems like, but they keep taking care of business, and hey, they're looking really good.
And the Saints pulling off a win this week, 36-25 in Chicago in a hostile environment. I know a lot of the talking heads, a lot of the commentators are talking about how bad Mitch Trubisky played in that game, and should he be the guy, but they're not giving credit to the Saints defense.
No, all they got to do is look at last week at what they did against Jacksonville. The defense has definitely stepped up. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. The secondary, Lattimore in the backfield is just taking care of business. The whole defense as a whole is really doing their job. Time of possession is just phenomenal. The Saints on offense is controlling the clock, so the defense is getting a break on the sidelines. Once they get on the field, they're taking care of 3 and out, and clearly Trubisky was just way over his head yesterday.
One of the things I noticed too is going back and looking at the games the Saints have played. Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson are the only ones to put up gaudy numbers against this defense. But that was towards the beginning of the year. They're starting to gel. They're starting to play together. And now Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, one of their first picks out of Florida this year that plays kind of a hybrid safety cornerback. Talk about how special he is to the Saints and some of the play that he had this weekend. Well,
it just goes back to the Saints drafting that they've done the last couple of years. Every draft they seem to just keep drafting these key players, and when they say next man up, Sean Payton just keeps bringing these guys up, next man up, and clearly he's one of the next man up. He came in, he's doing his job, and he may be a starter.
And Teddy Bridgewater had another stellar performance. Looked good. Michael Thomas would have been his main target, but he's, the can't guard Mike, that stands. He also hit Josh Hill, Latavius Murray, and with the absence of Alvin Kamara, you saw Taysom Hill lining up at receiver.
Yeah. The other player, too, that stood out was Ted Ginn. If he could have made 3 of the catches that he actually dropped, it would have been a much bigger score, because, he dropped 1 touchdown easily. But it just showed that without Kamara, the Saints have other weapons besides him. And Latavius Murray, he ran for 116 yards, So clearly, like they say, the next man up, everybody's stepping up and doing their job, and it's a whole team effort.
Now, one of the things I want to talk about today is one thing I saw the Saints need to truly work on is our special teams. Deontay Harris is still kind of bobbling the ball just a little bit, but on an onside kick, don't they know that the ball has to travel 10 yards for it to be a legal onside kick? And so why do you have Michael Thomas touching the ball when the ball is clearly not going 10 yards, and then Washington is clueless that the ball's even there? They had a chance to lose one the second time as well. So I saw some of the things that need to be tightened up on this team, and it's really hard to find things because they're doing so many things well, but you do need to look at some things to make adjustments. Special teams, what do you have to say about that?
Well, the special teams, the play that got the game started and the Saints' momentum was blocking that punt.
Yes.
I mean, that right out the gate was a great special team play. Giving up the kickoff return to Cordell with the Bears, that was just a play. Yeah, one off big time. And then right before halftime, the punt return was just unbelievable. The way this guy just ran it all the way down the field and scored on it. And then we have the phantom holding call, which had nothing to do practically with the play, pretty much. He had already, he's running it back. So special team wide, they got a little cleaning up to do, but overall, I give them a B+ on special team easily.
I do think the officials are nitpicking on the Saints and some things. I didn't want to get into that, but that was, I find it odd that Cordell Patterson can run 130 yards and it's clean, but the Saints take a punt back, and then all you can find is this one phantom hold that when you look at that play, you don't really see it as a hold. I didn't see that there. But teams in the NFL that are in trouble right now, I see the Atlanta Falcons, the Denver Broncos. Last week we talked good about the Broncos in their win against Tennessee, and then on that Thursday night, atrocious performance. Their offensive line needs some adjustment.
Yeah, and Flacco was back to the same old Flacco. I mean, he's like a Statue of Liberty back there. I mean, he just can't. He has no movement. You got to be able to feel the pressure, and that's one thing about Breeze and Bridgewater. They feel the pressure coming. They're able to move in the pocket and get rid of the ball. Flacco, he stands there, and I mean, they just collapse on him and take him down.
Well, you brought up a good point about Bridgewater. A lot of times people, he's inaccurate when he's throwing the ball, but really he's throwing the ball away because he's trying to avoid that sack. The only time he takes those sacks is when they sneak up on him, But looking at that, the other team I see in trouble is, who do you see? Of course, Washington.
Cincinnati. Cincinnati is, they're just a dumpster fire. They played Jacksonville tough, but they just couldn't, continue the game to win the game. It just they just hurt themselves play after play after play in the fourth quarter. So Cincinnati, to me, they're winless, and I continue to see them be winless probably for the rest of the season.
Well, when we come back, we'll be talking sports betting and look at some of the picks for this week.
Hey folks, feeling like a bit of adventure? Well, we got it for you. The Jeep Cherokee Latitude Plus right here at Champion for 19 and some change. That's right, you heard it right. 19 and some change for a Cherokee Latitude. A JD Power 5-star rating. Come on in and ask for stock number 69059. Some terms and conditions may apply. It's time for Jeep Adventure Days here at Champion. ChampionValue.com.
Champion!
Welcome back to Port City Cafe. This is Breakfast with Champion. We're here taping every Monday morning at 8 o'clock if you want to come down and be a part of the crowd. Visiting here with Adam with Sportsbook at the Hard Rock. How you doing this morning?
Good, yourself? Ready to talk some football, ready to talk some sports betting.
Ready to talk some picks, Ernest?
Oh, heck yeah. LSU, Auburn, hey, big game.
Big game. Well, I was going to ask you specifically, looking at the point spread, Alabama and Arkansas, Tua is going to be out.
Yep.
The point spread is 33 points.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on Alabama covering 33 points with Tua out of the game?
It's going to be tough. Without a doubt, Alabama's a good team, but this isn't the same quarterback as Tua. Tua is without a doubt one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Mac Jones, I'm sure a lot of people are going to start putting money on Arkansas. Don't be surprised to probably see that line move down to, 30 at least.
Yes. Ernest?
I agree. I can see that. Alabama's defense just is not the standard of what they're used to playing right now. Clearly, it showed against Tennessee. So I can see Arkansas having some success against their defense. But quarterback-wise, if Tua's not in there, I'd say the line's probably going to be about 30.
Yeah.
Well, looking at our people that are in the top 10 that are playing next week, Clemson has Boston College coming into home, and they're a 33.5-point favorite. Do you see them covering that?
That's tough. Boston College, I mean, they're not, a bottom of the barrel type ACC team. They could end up pulling a backdoor cover. Getting a late touchdown in the fourth quarter, something like that, to pull off a 30-point cover.
Yeah. Clemson is not their same team again compared to Alabama. From what they were doing last year. Quarterback-wise, he threw three interceptions this week here for Clemson, and so they're struggling. Clemson is now. They did take care of Louisville, 45-3, but I think Boston College defensively is going to be a little tougher than what Louisville brought to the table.
Do you think Ohio State covers against Wisconsin, getting 14 points?
With the way they've shown that they've been playing, it's a possibility. But also, Wisconsin coming off a loss against Illinois, and this is, pretty much Ohio State's first big competition of the year. It's definitely going to be a good game. Jonathan Taylor's been a heck of a running back for Wisconsin, so, you could see Wisconsin pulling off the cover.
Yeah. And also, coming up in the NFL, some of the picks that we looked at, the Cards versus Saints, Seattle at Atlanta, and Carolina at San Francisco. Carolina and San Francisco's got 5.5 points. Carolina's pretty hot right now.
Yeah, Kyle Allen is definitely showing up Cam Newton. They could turn around and get rid of Newton at the end of the year because of how well Kyle Allen's been playing. And San Francisco, I think, has got to lose a game here eventually, and Carolina could be that team to beat them.
Yeah, other than the Rams, the San Francisco haven't played anybody with a winning record.
No.
Kind of in the same boat the Cowboys were when they played the Saints. Seattle at Atlanta, they're giving Seattle only 3.5 points. The way Atlanta played this weekend, I see them being able to cover that.
Without a doubt. Seattle, Russell Wilson's been having an MVP type season, and Atlanta just really hasn't looked that good.
And look, before we end the show, let me just do a little shout out. Les Miles with Kansas last week was getting 21 points against Texas. With 30 seconds left in the game, Texas kicked a field goal to win the game 50-48. So Les Miles has got Kansas heading in the right direction. Kansas only projected to win 2 games this season. They've already won 2. This week coming up will probably be their 3rd game. So hey, Les Miles is doing good. I know he left LSU, and throw a shout out.
Well, that's it for Breakfast with Champion. We'll see you back here next week at 8 in the morning.